Welcome back to Blacker Couch Reviews, where we are going to discuss another episode of the Interview with the Vampire. Ruthless Pursuit of Blood with All a Child's Demanding is the title for episode 4. Written by Eleanor Burgess, directed by Keith Powell. I gave this a solid 9 out of 10. Great writing as always. I haven't seen anything that Bailey Best has been in, but I thought her portrayal of Claudia was just enough charm to offset the teenage angst, and she made quite a addition to both Louis and Lestat for different reasons, but she finds herself coming to the realization, as Daniel did in a savage manner, that Louis certainly took to heart. Ow. By pointing out she was a band-aid on a gaping wound of a marriage between Lestat and Louis, who that episode, as I stated, made it very clear to Louis that they were not going to work. That, upon his request that same very night, speaks of, and it could be not really manipulative, more like unconsciously manipulative in a manner, to get what Louis wanted at that moment, which in a sense condemned Claudia to her fate, no matter what was his motivation behind it. And we know his motivation behind it was certainly a lot of guilt. No matter what the outcome of it was, he certainly has a lot of stake in creating the dilemma that Claudia finds herself in at the end of this episode. But in the present, Daniel's talking to his, I'm guessing his agent. Like, I can't tell you where I am other than Dubai. I'm going to make a book. Not an article, but a book. I know what a book is. And he is asked how he slept by Rashid. Rashid. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. That's all I'm going to do for the rest of the season. But do I have questions for you, sir. He tells Daniel that Louis is going to be resting, but he wants him to go over some very precious documents, diaries, in that gorgeous ass reading room. Can someone make me a reading room like that? I used to love going to libraries and just sitting there for hours on end and reading. So that whole setup aesthetic was all the way up my alley. Even the books on the bookshelves that high, and then I was like, how the fuck them books get up there? I ain't seen no ladder around. I'm just making conversation. But he is left alone. Even though Rashid is a little snarky, Daniel is told to use some gloves and keep them on. Like, this shit is archives. But I suppose it is. They are precious because they're Claudia's diaries. He's told to start from here to there, and of course he does the opposite. Like, yeah, I'm going to go start where I want to. What the hell is this? And so after diving into very few compilations that make sense, he decides to start at the beginning, and that's when she goes to the night of when she was rescued by her black angel. She was taken to this wonderful house. Lestat is begged by Louis to turn her. I thought in the book, am I mistaken? No, I may not be mistaken. That it wasn't like he turned No, it was Lestat to turn her. Yes, it was Lestat. I have like a hazy memory. It's been a while, man. 8th grade was a really long time ago. But yeah, she's saved. He's like, I wouldn't even know where to bite. She's so burned. I don't know why that tickled me, but it's so very Lestat. He's like, I really don't want to do this. But then he realizes that Louis is kind of thinking maybe this could make us a family. He understands that this is possibly the lifeline that can reinvigorate their marriage because it's in a pretty shitty place. And because he really does love his Louis, he does as he is instructed and turns Claudia into a vampire. Now let's take a moment to address, once again, I don't like to put Louis on a halo, and I can definitely see, because I took a little peek into one chat just because I was curious. It was a Tumblr chat, so I figured it'd be pretty safe. And it was, because it was a non-spoiler one, but I could definitely see that Louis is kind of put up more in a positive light. And that's to be expected. Louis is so much more likable than Lestat. But I feel, granted, this is from the perspective of all non-book readers. That's why I felt it was safe to go in there. And it was an episode by episode thing. So I just read last episode's commentary. I didn't stay for long. After 5 minutes, I was like, okay. I got what I needed. But be that neither here nor there. Louis has some responsibility here in his moment of guilt and shame for his very personal attack, justified or no. His community, unfortunately, bore the brunt of that. And saving this one girl when everyone else doesn't even want him to offer assistance is his repentance. He cannot not try to atone in this manner. This is what he has clawed onto, and I'm sure there's something there with the loss of his sister as well. That very same episode when she finally turned her back on him, and he really doesn't have someone that looks like him. And there's something to be said by, yes, he loves Lestat and Lestat loves Louis. There's still a racial divide that Lestat is never going to fully understand, and Louis is always going to have to explain to him, versus having a daughter feeling as if you're passing on and sharing that shared culture. That's a different type of connection that Lestat's not going to be able to have with Louis, and it is causing a little bit of a jealous friction immediately. I love that scene that comes very much after she is turned, and Louis and Claudia can talk to each other via their minds, but Lestat cannot understand them. And Louis even takes a moment of enjoying that fact of, oh, he can only know what I say with my mouth. It's a subtle acknowledgement of a power dynamic. And you see that Lestat very much does not like it.
This is not okay.
However, this does the one thing that all of the years of talking to Louis does not accomplish, which is his separation from human affairs. He now has something invested in his vampiric life other than the companionship and love of a lover. But that love that he has for Lestat is based on what Lestat allows him to know. And I think that is a point that continues to keep them unbalanced. Not only him being a more powerful vampire, him being the master, him being the one that's dominant in the relationship, but he also is keeping a huge part of, like she says, secrets from him, and despite how long they've known each other, they've still not had some of these very important conversations. And Claudia's that unabashed, unbiased third party who's just like, okay, but also,
you can't handle the truth.
Can I just go back briefly to the idea of a vampire child? Because they immediately see what the problem is. The first being, she turns, there's no romantic, deep bonding type of moment like between Lestat and Louis. It's just more like, and it's done. You're part of our family now. She's like, I had a white daddy and a black daddy. I think she said Uncle Les and Uncle Louis is what she eventually, but they definitely see her. Well, Louis certainly sees her as his daughter. And I would argue Lestat in his own way, because they do have certain things that are far more in common than with Louis. Like, Louis would love for her to be all vegan. But she's like, no, I'm going to go hunting with Uncle Les. But she also has a very assertive persona. She does what she likes, and they pretty much spoiled her. I don't know why it made me laugh so hard when they was in the little car thing. It's like, I don't know how I feel about them frills. That Louis picked out. It's just so, it's a parent thing, and they take to it pretty solidly, I have to say. The first years were very well, because Claudia was a handful. She was still at the mindset of, this is kind of cool. I'm immortal now. What's that over there? Oh, we don't want to talk about that over there. But she immediately is like, no secrets if we're to be a family, because I'm going to like that. She doesn't think about her old life. She don't consider her old life. She's just, I'm hungry and I'm happy and I'm alive. That is, you could tell she comes from a very rough background, right? Where this would all feel very much like a fairy tale. These people get to buy me anything I want. I get to eat anything I want, even though I don't like food. But for the most part, if I want to eat meat in the rare kind, the breathing, squirming rare kind, I can, as long as I do it within the rules. But unfortunately, when they tried to get her to eat this dirty homeless old man, or I don't even know who the fuck he was, she had no pleasure for that. She went straight from the cops. He's like, little girl? She's like, you're not a little girl, you're the devil. She's like, he called me the devil.
You can't fuck with Queen Bee. Queen Bee.
But she is very impulsive. She runs through the house. They be screaming, don't run through the house. What did I tell you about skipping through the house? She don't pay them no mind. She sleeps in Uncle Louis' coffin. You could tell he was not happy about that. That first little coffin night had me cracking up. He's like, would you tell her this? Why did she talk to a book? I don't understand. Because she writes in a diary. Oh, I keep forgetting how old Lestat is. And she wants to know immediately, like, what are the other vampires? Where did you come from? If you made me and you made Louis. And he's immediately like, did you put her up to this shit? No, she's a child. This is what children do. They ask the questions that you don't want to answer. But eventually she stops asking questions when her and Louis go on a rowboat. And he tells her, after catching fireflies, so very cute. And he puts her in pigtails. That basically sometimes old people, you know, don't go fucking with shit that you don't know nothing about. It's pretty much how I can sum up that conversation. Because, look, your Uncle Les, I love him, but let's just put it like this. Some people kill to survive, and some people kill to be extravagant, and your Uncle Les is extravagant. And I don't like going out seeing his kills, and he respects that. So I'm going to catch this fish that she says looks disgusting. And she's like, I don't know if I can live on that diet, Uncle Louis. I love you, and I'm going to respect you, especially when it comes to testing Lestat. But I have a feeling she is only going to put up with that for so long because she is so very assertive and a dominant personality and a domineering personality. And she has Louis's heartstrings, which means that Louis is going to feel pulled in different directions. It's not just Lestat that he has, or Lestat doesn't only have to, or Lestat has someone to compete with, is what I'm trying to say, for Louis's affections. Time goes on, and as time goes on, things continue to improve. She gets her own casket. She's so excited about it. And they tried to tell the owner of the funeral home that she has cancer, you know, she doesn't have long to live. And because she's excited about the casket, he's immediately like, something ain't right here. But I did love how Lestat went immediately into time to protect the family mode and take the motherfucker down. As Louis goes and fixes the curtains so there's no one that can see, and Claudia still obliviously content to celebrate her new casket. They go to the movies. They laugh. They celebrate her 18th birthday with dead people. And everything was good until one day Louis gets a phone call. His mother has finally passed away. We knew this was going to come eventually. He comes to the funeral. He has a very contentious relationship with his sister Grace now. She pretty much is like, yeah, I invited you because you were going to step on this property no matter what, even though you can't be here for when it matters. And this is my thing. This is a question I do have. Would you just tell your sister I'm a vampire? I understand she might reject you, but she already has. So what's the point? At least you're like, well, at least you know the truth. You know? She seemed as if when him and Lestat were first getting on, it almost felt as if she was open to the idea of her brother, or understanding. I could have misread that she was kind of aware of his sexual preference. And while she didn't openly, it's like one of those things you keep in the closet. And maybe that's it, because they're so open about it that she can't condone it really. Like, well, yeah, I could condone it in a certain manner, but not if you're going to be blatant, because, you know, you're not respecting the fact that I am Catholic, I suppose, and you would think that you're the devil, but you already think that. So why not say, look, I'm a vampire. I can't show up in the fucking day because I'll burn in fucking light. But then does that open you to the, you know, then your sister and your friends and their friends are like, what the fuck? There's this demon here. We got to kill you. Da 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 da. Because that also could be an option, I suppose, if I think it through. But I almost want to tell him, I want her to tell, or him to tell her that. Like, look, I got a melanin disease. I can't be out in the sun. It's my doctor's note. Why is it that homeboy wears sunglasses, but everyone else just walks around with their eyeballs out? I'm like, Louise, stop stunting. They all know. But his mama's passed away, and Claudia ain't got no damn... How y'all raising this child? She is meant to be the daughter of fucking vampires, because ain't no other child, no other black child would have been acting like this. So they're looking at a dead woman talking about, she looks peaceful. I didn't even know you had a mama. Who the fuck are you? I'm here with my Uncle Les and my Uncle Louis. Who the fuck are you? Had a toot about it too. Was about to fight at the funeral. Claudia, settle down. But yeah, they want the house. And they don't pretend otherwise. And as they continue to try to shame him, he's like, don't forget how I kicked that door in. And that's a definite change, because he's clearly like, I will fuck you up. Either keep your ass in place or I will come back not so nicely. But he says he'll draw up the papers like, I'll do what you want. I got you. You know, I got you because I'm your fam. But don't forget that I got you. Trying to buck up on me. You know you better step back. Then he kisses her on the cheek, like forcing her not to disown him in the manner in which he would love to. But it's rather sad and tragic, because I did think out of everyone, Grace was trying to reconciliate, even though he disappeared for the longest. I think she was open to that, and he just continued to disappoint her so many times. At what point do you have to turn your back and start thinking about the emotional safety of your own children? But over time, Claudia eventually realizes that she is no longer a little girl, but she is stuck in a little girl's body. Because she goes with Uncle Les. Well, first she realizes that Uncle Les and Uncle Louis be doing more than sleeping in separate coffins. That was so cute. He's like, you miss me? I did miss you. And they was all kissing. She's like, oh. But I like the fact that she asked him about it. Like, what's it like between two men? I don't know. But he's very honest. Like, I used to pretend to like girls. Not anymore. She noticed immediately the affection between them. She accepts it, and you know, she just probably never thought of it so openly, and she likes being their daughter. But when Lestat takes her on a lover's lane kill, she watches and starts to get that phase that all little girls and boys go through, which is called puberty. So the teenager wants something special for herself, and that's to be expected. You have two people that have each other. You're eventually going to start to feel alone. She notices that her parents argue, but they usually do it in French. And she thinks it's funny when they argue in French. However, she can see that there is a strain between them in different ways, in different manners. And they do argue over her, because Lestat is not even... I know, Louis and Lestat, who told them to have LL names, but I get them mixed up all the time. Louis is upset that Lestat took her to Lover's Lane. And he's like, look, she is a vampire. You can't try to keep her from her nature just because you want her to be, you know, they're arguing over how they want their child to be raised, you know? It's like, oh, are they going to follow your philosophy or follow your philosophy? And you're both competing for the influence on their lives, or you're trying to disassociate certain characteristics from the other. And that's not fair to Claudia. in any way, because she shouldn't be an experimental debate between you. At this point in the future, Daniel comes to go see Rashid, who is praying. And he wonders, how are you praying to another god when Louis is supposed to be your god? And secondly, how are you quoting from a religion that sounds older than what you should be quoting from? Let me go add that to my shit that I still need to be verified. I did read that list. I think one of them was like, how does the people know that he's here? Dang, I should have wrote it down, but one of them on there made me chuckle. I can't remember which one it was, though. So from that point, Louis joins him, and that's when, they have a little tussle of words over the fact that he does he mentions that to Rashid, that he does like Claudia, even if she is a bit of a killing machine. And Louis admits to loving her like a daughter, and he's like, I understand that feeling. I have 2 of my own. And he's like, then you know what it's like to, because he asked, why didn't you bring this up in 73? Like, why you would not want the ways in which you most failed them in letter form possibly being brought up to an absolute stranger. And Daniel admits that he's been thinking about the bar where they met quite often recently in the last couple of days, which it makes sense. You could tell that Louis has pored over her diaries again and again and again, because he can quote them. And when we continue back into the story, where she starts to come out of her little girl clothes, she decides that she's going to steal an outfit from another woman because she's a big girl now. And she goes out and she wants to go find herself a connection while her parents stay home. She goes out and is able to hear the thoughts of a group of women that are basically mocking the fact that she is in adult clothes when she is a child. And you have to think about it like that. And it is really hard to think about it like that because the actress looked appropriate in what she was wearing. She looked cute, rather. But to a passerby, I'm thinking of like my 14-year-old daughter in like some get up that's clearly 20 years older than she should be. And this causes her to be angry, and she loses her control very easily. And I think that's something she hasn't quite mastered because she doesn't want to, or because maybe because her age. I think that's what Lestat said. Like, she's gonna have the emotional mental health of a 14-year-old for the rest of all humanity, and that's like, she's gonna have those hormones, and it's like, shit, how do you get them to understand that you can't just cut a bitch just because they talking shit? I mean, you shouldn't be, but that wasn't even that cruel of a comment. Just an observation. And she is saved from attacking these people and embarrassing herself by Charlie, who is a horse driver or horse cart driver. And she very much makes forward passes at Charlie, who doesn't know what to make of her, other than she is completely beautiful and they are completely smitten. And she's like, look up, look up. She waits for 9 o'clock for him to come past, because he says he drives past her house all the time. So I didn't think a colored family lived there. And he drops some flowers for her. He's like, this ain't a date, as they go for ice cream. She said,
I got that whoa, na, na, na.
He left her flowers. He looked up when she really wanted him to look up. And she is very, she wears her heart on her sleeve. She's unabashedly, kind of flirting and loving on him. And the ice cream, she just doesn't want to eat it because it tastes like paste. She also put that shit on the wall. I'm like, do you see how expensive this mahogany fucking wood is? And you sitting here putting food on the damn wall.
Honey Badger don't care. Honey Badger don't give a shit. It just takes what it wants.
Ice cream was not the dessert on Claudia's menu as they go make out in the horse carriage. I'm guessing, yeah, that's the carriage. And unfortunately, being turned on and feeling the pulse and having self-control are things that all end in tragedy, as he calls her an angel. And that's really sad. The first man called me a devil, and the last man I ever will love called me an angel. Girl, you met him for 3 days. Talking about some love. And I understand, because in her mind, everything is like turned up to 55,000 times the hormones of a teenager. So yeah, no wonder she went batshit crazy at that point. Especially when Lestat is trying to teach her a lesson, but parenting was not something ever in his cards. This is not all Louis' fault, but Louis certainly should have taken this into consideration. You knew that man is not meant to be a daddy to nobody, okay? He could barely not be selfish with you, because a child loving a daughter, that means you have to be selfless. And that nowhere in Lestat's definition. But yeah, I felt bad for Charlie getting the life drained out of him just as he really wanted something else drained out of him.
Oh God, it's so good. So good.
I guess he too was supposed to be a boy, but he was very much a man. Talking about, you ain't older than me. If she's 18, he's supposed to be like, what, 17? Anywho, yeah, she brings him back to the house. Ain't nobody saw this girl carrying a dead body, but that's neither here nor there. She explains what happened, and Lestat, of course, is fucking horribly, not the right time, amused. He always be on some shit. And he's like, oh, young love. When you overreact. It's really hard with Lestat because it feels like he's emotionally distant from what's happening. Like, oh, I remember when I was in love and I fucking accidentally drained my first teenage love. That's how he addresses things, and it comes off like an asshole, and it is. He's my lovable asshole. As I make no excuses for Lestat. I think that he is himself a broken person, but we haven't got his story yet. And so I feel like there's a natural bias there. But in the concept of what I'm seeing thus far in the show, he's not someone that is not the best person. Definitely not. But not the worst person in the world thus far from what we've been shown. He feels, when he says that, I'm thinking that's exactly how I'm reminded of, without any context of knowing what I know from the books. He's just someone who is devoid of that human reaction to things because it's so beyond what he no longer associates with. So why do I need to dumb it down for this child? She's going to find out, and it's better that I let her know now. And even with showing her, watching the body, watching his face melt, in his own way, he's saying, yes, don't ever make this mistake again. But it's almost like you got to let your child go out and make their own mistakes. That's tough parenting in a way. And while it is on the crueler side of tough for parenting, it's a different kind of cruel consequence, because now you have to live with the fact that you killed the person that you loved. And then the funny part is when she's like, please just try. And he lifted an arm and said, he's dead. I'm not going to entertain you just because, that's part of your problem is you're a little indulged. So I'm not going to indulge you. And there is something valid in what he's saying. It's just he ain't saying it in the greatest. He ain't expressed it in the healthiest of manners. But yeah, don't fuck around with humans. That shit's not gonna work out. And if you would listen and come to talk to your parents before, making these impulsive, rational, is it irrational? Yeah, irrational, not rational. Decisions, then, you would get this, but you continue to want your own autonomy. And there's no way I'm going to be able to leash you, What are we going to do? But I did feel horrible for Claudia because this is when it becomes very clear to her, especially after hearing the argument when she goes in her room. She hears them arguing, and she's starting to understand fully and appreciate in the worst way what this gift is that she's not been, she didn't have a choice in, right? She could have just died. The only reason why she didn't die is because of Louis's guilt, right? He needed her to be his saving grace. Literally. And in a lot of ways that has condemned her to something she didn't agree to. Whereas as much as we want to say that Louis emotionally took advantage of the situation, there's still some conspiracy theories out there that Louis, that's when I jumped out, that Lestat killed his brother. I'm like, no, he didn't. I mean, I guess they could change that in the show. I'm not saying that can't be possible, but there's been really no indication, and that would just be on a whole nother level. You know what I mean? I don't think that's what the show is really trying to get at all. I think that he was always going to die and it had nothing to do. I mean, sure, that was a moment, but it wasn't the defining moment, because one, his brother was deteriorating even before then, all leading up to the sister's wedding. So that is what was the triggering point for him, not Lestat. So that's point one. Part two is, while Louis certainly didn't know, I don't know how, I can't say with what percentage, but I am of the opinion personally, as I was watching that last scene in the church and Louis' absolute disregard, sure, he may have felt his life was in danger. If he hadn't kissed Lestat and he just agreed, then I would say, yes, he forced upon him this gift. But that's not what happened. That's not the narrative that Louis recalls himself. And even the first time he even admits that was not my truth. My truth was I wanted it. My truth was I said yes. My truth was, for the first time, I felt seen, and that meant more to me than anything else that came before about this man. And when he's like, you the one that killed whatchamacallit, he didn't just come up with that idea. He'd been suspecting for a while Lestat might be an otherworldly creature that is fucking killing people around here. He wasn't completely blind to what was happening. Sure, he was not aware he was being as hunted as he was. And I'm sure that Louis had the upper hand, especially coming to address and seduce him up to that point. But there's something to be said about the fact that he still did give him that choice. He made a very convincing argument, but an argument nonetheless that required a response that was willing. Whereas Claudia was the product of an argument between two people, one in which was in an emotionally compromised place, and so was the other. that went against their better judgment, because Lestat did not want this. He's like, no, you cannot have a child vampire. But if it was going to repair what was going to keep Louis from leaving, then he was going to give it to him. And they tried. But that condemns her, as I stated once again. And it leads to this really great monologue where she is angry and she has embraced, she's kind of got a little nihilistic, because she goes to the sun window and she puts her hand out there. I don't think that's suicide. I think that is nihilism. She is now going to simply go in a direction, I think, that is far more masochist, because now she feels a lot of less self-worth, and now she's got all this power, and she's probably going to be all over the fucking place, like any teenager would. And I am really curious to see how that continues to strain on the Louis Lestat relationship, and how that is going to lead to events coming down the line. And I think that's a good point to stop the review and head on over to the feedback.
What up, Stina? It's Mimi. This is my feedback for Interview with the Vampire, episode 4, season 1. This is take 3, so hopefully this one works. I'm not trying to pretend like I understand. I've been trying to record at home, relaxing, so it can be heard better, but I just couldn't get a free moment. There's always somebody that needs something at home, and that's why I end up having to record in the car. So here we go again. I really, really like this episode. Unfortunately, in my mind, I had sent feedback like the night I watched it, but I looked back and I did not. So we're going to try and do the best I can with my memory. But I love Claire. I can't stress that enough. I love that was one thing about the movie that I felt like we didn't get enough of. Like, in the movie, we were supposed to understand that they love this little girl, but it's like, how could you love her? You knew her for like 5 minutes. And, even if you knew, someone for like a year, if you're an immortal and you've been around for centuries, knowing someone for a year can't mean that much to you. But we see, at least in this episode, that they at least were around her for enough time that she was 14 when she died, and she's almost 19. So it's been at least 5 years, which, I mean, considering Louis hasn't been a vampire that long, I'm sure it means a lot to him. I don't know how much it feels for... Why do I want to call him Dulag? I don't know what the older vampire is. I'm just going to call him Baby Daddy for now, because that's all I can think of. Louis' baby daddy. Now, one of the things I thought was hilarious was when the reporter basically was like, you thought bringing a baby in a shitty marriage would help. I was cackling because that's literally what I was thinking. I was like, y'all relationship, I mean, other than the sex, which clearly is phenomenal, but I don't know if that's a trait for your relationship because of your chemistry, or if that's just something that vampires can do as a lure, which I think it would be. They're alluring. I mean, if you think about the way, in the animal kingdom, you're supposed to lure your prey in. That might just be one of their things, being sexy. But their relationship's pretty toxic. I don't know, but I I was trying to, like, the reason I didn't send it immediately after I watched is because I was thinking about that. Like, I don't know if Louis necessarily decided that he was gonna bring Claire into this relationship because he was trying to save it. I don't know that that was something he consciously made an effort to do. Maybe subconsciously, but I feel like, you know, at least from what we've seen, he felt guilty because there was so many people dying around him and people losing their homes because of something. Literally, it was his fault. Something he did. He made a decision that affected other people, and they don't have the ability to be alive and defend themselves like he does. So I think he felt guilty about that, and he said he hurt her. It looks like her aunt burned at the door. But, you know, now that we know about Claire's actual aunt, I don't even know. She might have locked her in there trying to get away. She didn't seem like a very nice person. She was abusive, at least that's what Claire said. So I feel like maybe that was something he thought, like, this could bond us more. But I don't know that he necessarily got Claire specifically because he thought it would save their marriage. I could be wrong. I don't know. I guess we would have to go further and see. I love that she calls Louis Daddy Louis. I think it's hilarious. I don't know if that was so much more because she had that connection to him, you know, immediately. She can, like, they can talk to each other through the mind, but since, you know, I guess when you create a vampire, you can't read their thoughts anymore. Or if maybe it was because they were both black and it made more sense for that to be her dad. I don't know. But daddy and uncle. I thought it was hilarious. One of the things I was always curious about was, you know, she's 14 and the tween angst that I have to go through with my 11-year-old, almost 12-year-old is astronomical. It's so annoying. And I hear it gets worse. I recently had a parent-teacher conference with Derek, and I don't bring him anymore because I be wanting to get to the nitty-gritty. Darren had to work, so I was there by myself, and I was just, you know, going, like, Derek has never been, like, he's always been emotional, like, he's sensitive, but he's never been rude, but he has been so damn rude, and you know, I let him get it out. I don't want to hurt his feelings, and I let him express himself, but sometimes it's like, dude, you cannot talk to me like that. I'm your mother, and I'm about to punch you in the fucking throat. So, me being a mom of an 11-year-old, it's a boy, but, you know, teen angst is a thing. This is a 14-year-old. I was always thinking, you know, how is this gonna go when she has to feed and she's going off impulse? Like, I can't imagine she's gonna be able to control her impulses because most teenagers don't control their impulses. Not all of them. There are some exceptions, but I feel like the majority of teenagers are very bad at controlling themselves. They're like, your emotional intelligence, for some reason, at a certain point in teenagehood, it just plummets, and that's what I was concerned about. And it seems as though, like, some people smell better than others. So I guess she has a metabolism of a teenager, so she's gonna need a lot of bodies multiple times a day. And it looks like Louis can go a couple days without eating, or maybe eating a little bit. Not Louis, baby daddy, because he leaves and does his hunt and then come back with it. Doesn't seem like he does it all the time. I don't know, but it did show me what I wanted to see. She does have impulse control, and she thinks that her and, you know, uncle are similar, and it's like, you know, you're a child. He is a fucking fully grown ass vampire, centuries old. I guess he's like 159 or something, 160, something like that. It's like, I feel like y'all shouldn't have that much in common. And the fact that you guys both like killing. I don't know. It says something about him. I don't know. Maybe like I feel like he's probably maybe he gets bored. Maybe that's why he likes the hunt and he likes to kill. Because it's like with rich people, when they have so much money, they start doing stupid shit with it. It's like if you have so much money that you need to go buy islands, maybe you don't need it anymore. Just like if you have so much time on your hands because you're immortal, that you get bored with, just hunting someone and killing them, you gotta make a game out of it. Maybe you need to be unalive. Just saying. Like, maybe your time has come. Maybe your immortality should come to an end. I don't know. But, we'll see. I thought it was devastating when she, I guess, realizing her sexualness, as a woman, she's 14. I feel like, had she not been sheltered, maybe she would have, had those feelings before. But this was all new to her. She found that boy she liked, and he definitely liked her. And they went on a date, and they went back to his little, I guess, his barn. I don't know. That horse knew something was up. He wasn't about her at all. Like, he definitely seemed like he hated her from jump. But she killed him, and it was an accident. And I agree that with Daddy Louis that you need to be more passionate. Like, I knew he was dead. When a black person's gray, that's never a good sign. Never ever a good sign. But her like realization, and I'm not saying, like, I feel like maybe she shouldn't be around people she cares about right now, just like I would thought with Louis. Like, you guys need to learn to control your abilities and control your urges before you're around people you love, because that shit will happen. You don't have the impulse control yet. All this is new, all these feelings, the hunger, the heightened senses, it's a lot. So I don't think he should have told her that she just can't keep close to humans. But I mean, clearly that's how he felt, and that's how he lives his immortal life. And we'll see. Claire looked like she was going through it at the end of this episode, burning herself, self-harm. So I feel like maybe she's not gonna fare well after this episode. She might turn into her uncle. I don't know. The last thing I want to talk about before I end this is just the funeral of Louis' mom. I don't know why, but her, like, the way she was looking at the mom, Daddy Louis' mom, and like, it smells weird in here. She smells off. Like, it was so terrible. It's like, y'all didn't teach her how to act in public before y'all brought her to this fucking funeral. I don't understand how they expected her not to respond the way she did. She's a vampire. She's 14. Now, it's all new to her. Y'all ain't teach her etiquette, clearly. Y'all, it's just been y'all and her. So she doesn't know how to act around alive people unless she's murdering them. So their response to her was hilarious. It's like, y'all really suck at this parenting thing. Louis has the emotional thing down. Like, you can tell he loves her, and he doesn't hide stuff from her when he talks to her, and I appreciate that. But the whole, like, parental thing, I guess, they went from nothing to a 14-year-old. So, I will cut them some slack. But you can't expect her to know how to act around people that aren't dead if you didn't teach her. She was embarrassing me. And, I don't know. I get why Louis' sister is afraid of him, but I'm sorry. I don't know what his sister actually does, her husband does for a living, but he got some audacity. It's like, motherfucker, whether he needs the money or not, like, y'all bringing up his, boyfriend or whatever, it technically is still his house. And to me, if you want me to give it to you, maybe you shouldn't be an asshole. Maybe you should be talking nice to me. Read the room is all I'm saying. And then the husband, like, shut your broke ass up. You, sir, ain't got nothing to do between me and my sister. And that's what I would have told him. Mind your motherfucking business. Go upstairs and watch the children. Make sure they're okay. I don't know. I didn't like the way his sister handled it. I don't know. Maybe that was the time. Maybe even though that's his sister and it's his house, maybe it's supposed to be a man-to-man thing. But so far, we ain't heard nothing good about Louis' sister's husband. He seems like a bum. So, I ain't got no respect for him. I think that's all I have. Like I said, I really, really enjoyed this episode. I can't wait to see what happens next. Hopefully we get some more of the, from Claire's diaries, because I really like that that's how they opened up the story. I also would like to learn more about, I'm assuming that's Louis' new boyfriend, and I'm assuming he's a vampire too, because he was praying, but he's apparently not from Dubai. I forgot what his name is, but I'm really curious. I feel like that's his boyfriend, but I guess maybe we're not supposed to know, or I could have missed it, whatever. So I'll end it here. Until next time, love, peace, Harry's, and Black Girl Magic, Queen of the Couch, Mimi out.
Thank you, Queen Mimi, for your thoughts on the episode. I'm glad you liked this one. First thought, they are children, teenagers. They are the moodiest. Maya is also very sensitive, but she be trying to do with that mouth, and I be like, look, girl, I will twist it. And then I ain't really gonna do that to her. But seriously, it takes a lot. It takes a lot to be dealing with all that, especially if you want to be patient and not just punch him in the face like our ancestors kept doing. Not even ancestors. They do it in the animal kingdom too. I told y'all I'm on this Mackay rhesus monkey. Is it rhesus? I don't know. But how they wean their children, it's hilarious. I like be biting the shit out of them. They be throwing these epic tantrums. Like, I don't give a fuck if I sometimes just give them a quick little smack. Like I said, no, I mean it. It's love, but it's tough love. It's pretty hilarious. I would say with the Lestat and Louis relationship, while we've seen elements of certainly toxicity on some level, I think more than anything that makes it unhealthy is because I still am of the opinion that Louis gives it as much as Lestat does. He knows where his pinpoints are, and he certainly, and I think, and also I like that Louis supports that narrative when he's talking to Daniel. Like, oh yeah, I knew what I was doing. I knew sometimes where I could test, where I can push. I knew what he liked about me. I mean, they are a couple I think that has a foundation on love. However, that foundation is cracked because Louis loves only the perspective of Lestat that Lestat allows Louis to see, without any context to his background, where he came from, his family, what he's actually been through, what his story is. And he wants to keep him very much to himself. And while I won't tell the story, I'll let the show tell the story of Lestat and why his philosophy is the way it is. Because we really haven't touched on it even a little bit. And there's a lot there that informs on Interview with the Vampire, and you don't know until you get to know exactly who the fuck Lestat is. Well, you do, and then you get into the Interview with the Vampire. Louis' story is just an intersection in his very, very long road that led up to there. So their relationship is in its infancy, but it is crumbling in the aftermath of, at that core part of Louis, who can retain his humanity, who wants to retain his humanity, who finds value in that, versus someone who's completely, absolutely detests that idea. And while we've seen hints that certainly lead to that, I think where you're picking up that on that toxic part, it is toxic in the sense of, we don't know exactly, like, he does what he likes, a certain torturous existence with humans that is so very off on where Louis is. It's kind of like, what the fuck, man? You know, I can't cope with the fact that you like torturing humans and take joy in that, despite the fact that we've even decided not to separate that. Now, I think that leads back to my other thing, and I don't want to talk too much on it, because like I said, the story is going to tell Lestat's story, and then you can, and I feel my opinion is way too informed, but they are given a little certain things that are different. I think that Lestat certainly saved Claudia. You said Claire the whole episode, but I knew what you meant. Claudia, because Louis wanted to. I think the first two pleases was like, please, please, no, Louis, this is a bad idea. You shouldn't do it. She needs to die. But that last please was, do this for me, and you got me. Like, this is going to get me to stay. It's all in the eyes. In the way in which he said it last. And I think because of the fact that Lestat did it, Lord, can't say words, that to me, in my opinion, informs that it was, while not originally why he brought her there for guilt, as you stated and pointed out. He certainly convinced Lestat to save her, so that, because this can repair what is between them. It's almost like, you do this, I'll stay. That horse was definitely trying to warn Charlie.
Oh, don't do it. Yeah. Oh my God.
She was hella disrespectful at the funeral. I forgot when she's like, that's what she said. She's like, it stinks. But they're treating her like a spoiled vampire, not a child. Not a teenager, not a human, a vampire. And those are different rules. That's a different rule book. Shut your broke ass up. That is exactly what he needs to always say. I think he was just trying to show he's a man by backing up his wife, but it's like, yeah, my sister can talk to me disrespectfully. You cannot. But yeah, they shouldn't be surprised that she is a brat when you got a whole ass man brat standing in front of you that she calls uncle. What are they having? I think that Lestat sees her as a daughter. I think that it isn't what he wanted, but he certainly is trying. That's where I don't want to give Lestat too much credit, but I don't want to take away any credit from him, if that makes sense. Because he certainly, I don't disagree on any of those factors names that you can associate with the man. But there is layers to him, and I think that that's important to the story as things continue to unfold, and also to Louis, and things, how they happen for him. And then there's the idea of, you see immediately Claudia almost feeling resentful at her creation. And you saw that when Louis rescued Claudia, he was at that moment of being resentful of his creation. Is that just an inevitability? I mean, there's so many different things, I think, compounded emotions that are involved with, this group, but I think it stems from the relationship that is authentically Louis and Lestat. It's just at a place where Louis is and Lestat's not. And that is going to conclude our feedback for this week. If you want to send feedback on our next episode, blackgirlcouch@gmail.com, or you can leave a comment below. My social media will be there as well. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Until the next time, peace, hair grease, and black girl magic.